And welcome to the Cerney Success Show. I am your host, Vincent Cerney, a show designed to give you ideas to be more successful. And we're celebrating an anniversary today. It's our 6th month on the air here at Time Warner Communications, giving ideas to thousands of people across Central Florida. And with me is the participant of the first Cerney Success Show, the training manager at Harris Semiconductor, Mr. Ed Rose. Ed, welcome again to the Cerney Success Show.
I'm glad to be here, Vince. Well, I'm glad you're having me back.
Well, it's always a pleasure having successful people back here. You mentioned you've been watching the Cerney Success Show and have gotten some interesting ideas out of it to use in business.
I have. I've watched probably half of the shows when I'm in town, when I'm not on the road, and I'm going to share one of them with you tonight and, kind of spin off a couple of other ideas that I've seen on the show.
Well, you're going to come up with some great behavioral attitudes and ideas. So for our viewers, I'm going to suggest if you have any kids at home, bring them to the TV set. They'll get a lot out of this. Plus, get a pencil and paper, because I think you're going to be jotting down some interesting things. Ed works with magic, and magic has always fascinated me. And what got you interested in magic, Ed?
Well, I needed something to captivate people's attention or grab their attention, if you will, in a training class, since I switched from a production manager to a training manager. And I need to be interesting, and this was something that I found to be, a way to actually grab their attention immediately, and then the key is to hold their attention.
Well, that's very true. You also are involved in sports. You were on a national championship softball team?
Yeah, I've been on a world champion team for the last 13 years now. We have 15 world championships, and we travel the country playing softball, focused softball.
Well, obviously the teamwork, the things you learn with a championship team ties into business. A couple of weeks ago we had Dr. Richard Gerson, who has a PhD in sports psychology and uses that to train business people in seminars.
I think the sports and the teamwork, now that business has gone to teamwork, that it really is more appropriate than it had been in the past even. My softball experience in teaming, and I've been in sports all my life, has really been an added plus. And that's kind of, the new book that I have out, 50 Ways to Teach Your Learner, that you're probably going to talk about. I guess maybe I stole one of your lines.
No, I hope you will talk about your book. That's important. The greatest criteria for a successful speaker or seminar leader is to be published, and you have 2 books. You talked about your first book earlier this year when you were on the show, and the title of that book is?
The title of that book is Presenting and Training with Magic.
And again, the new
book is 50 Ways to Teach Your Learner, and basically it's everything we've been doing at Harris Semiconductor for the last 8 years, transferring from the traditional management structure to the team-based culture. And there's a lot of activities, and what we believe at Harris is that you can have fun and learn at the same time. And John Garrett, the president, is a big supporter of people having fun and enjoying their job and learning and moving forward. The success of the company is really in the people.
If you're not enjoying what you're doing, I have 2 words: get out, find something else. You'll be happier, and the people you're presently with will be happier.
Well, what I wanted to share with you tonight is some behaviors in an acronym that we use at Harris called ATROC. And to start that off, let me ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
The children of today are tyrants. Well, I'm going to read a quote to you.
All right.
It's not really a question. The question will come later.
Out of Bartlett's or one of those?
No. The children of today are tyrants. They talk back to their elders, slobber their food, and annoy their teachers. Who said that, Vince?
Well, probably somebody in my family back 20, 30 years ago. If I went back, and Eleanor Roosevelt or possibly Martha Washington.
I get all kinds of answers on that. Really, it dates back to Aristotle.
The Greek.
The Greek, yeah. And if you look at quotes today, they're just rephrases, rewording of some of the things that were said way back. My point is, a lot of things, in some areas, some things never change in human interaction. And the 5 behaviors that I wanted to share with you in the ATROC acronym: adaptability, trustworthiness, resourcefulness, optimism, and consideration. There are 5 behaviors that will make you successful as an individual, especially an individual working in a team environment. And what I'd like to do is kind of give you 5 little short explanations as we go through them.
Let me repeat those to our viewers. ATROC, adaptable, trustworthy, resourceful, optimistic, considerate.
Right.
Now, I know trustworthy from Boy Scouts. That's one of the 12 Scout laws. But let's talk about adaptability.
Well, before we do, let me do one other thing, Vince. Last week, Florence
Littauer, wasn't she exciting?
Oh, she was great. One of the best persons you had on the show, and she did a thing on behaviors, personality.
Right.
And that thought, the immediate thought came Myers-Briggs, which is the one that's used worldwide. I've been working on one, and I wanted to. It's kind of like instant personality disorder, and it kind of goes like this. I want to do it quickly, so I know we're short in time here. But there's 4 colors. I want you to take one.
Each representing one of the personalities.
Well, you're getting ahead of me a little bit, but pick a color and put it in your left hand.
I'm a red, so let me
take a red. Okay.
I'm a red. I'm a
now,
social.
Before the show, I've known you for a while now.
Right.
You're an interesting guy.
Thank you.
Wouldn't it be interesting, in fact, that if I put in the color that I thought you were, would you reach in there? Reach in the bag and pull out what's in there. It's a red, huh? And would you verify that that's the only scarf in there?
That's the only one.
Okay.
So you had a 1 out of 4 chance.
1 out of 4 chance. And people think that's magic, but it's really not. Because what I'd like to do before I do that, well, I'm getting ahead of myself here. I'd like the audience to pick a color in their mind. Obviously, I can't hear you. So you got red, blue, green, or yellow. One of those colors, red, blue, green, or yellow.
Would you like that matching their personality, or?
Well, what I'm going to do is just pick the color. You got the color, red, blue, green. Now, I'm going to read a little short synopsis of what that color means.
Okay.
The greens, if you will, these people love detail, require more data than the average person before they make the decision. They tend to take a great deal of time in making their decisions. They feel that the decision should be right versus considerations of others. Now the reds, these people tend to be action-oriented. They have real need for immediate action, and they want to be in control, and they want to make the decision. That's what you are, right?
Like George Steinbrenner.
Yeah, there you go. Now the yellows, these people tend to be intelligent leaders. They lead by example and care about their people. Now the blues, they're an interesting group. They have a tendency to fantasize.
Oh.
They would rather be playing golf, fishing, or shopping, and not necessarily in that order. They're fun-loving people, and they believe a great day is filled with fun and excitement. And that's my 1-minute personality disorder. I don't know how much validity it has, but you decide.
Oh, 1 out of 4.
Yeah. Okay, now your question was adaptability.
Adaptability, ATROC at Rock. Now, you use this at Harris. Harris is your director of training for Harris Semiconductor.
Well, you give me a promotion. I'm only the training manager.
The training manager, I'm sorry, maybe when you get to work tomorrow.
Well, I would hope.
You're the training manager, but whatever Harris does, people should listen. It's the old A.E. Hutton. I mean, you're at the leading edge in your industry. We had your vice president of manufacturing.
Steve Titus, yeah, what a great job he did.
And the tremendous way he expressed how your company stays ahead. This is one of the ways you stay ahead of things. This is one of the ways our viewers can stay ahead with attitude and behavioral science. Let's talk about adaptability.
Well, let me just spin off a minute about Steve Titus, the vice president of manufacturing. It's with his leadership that we're able to do these kind of things. And it's really progressive and visionary type leadership. And he's very adaptable in his approach to management style. What I'd like to do is talk about paradigm flexibility. You know what a paradigm is?
Well, a paradigm in business, it's a box of 4 sides that a lot of people put themselves in, and when they don't want to try new ideas or new things, they stay in the box and end up losing for themselves, their company, and their family.
In the context of business and for us for solving problems, the paradigm paralysis, if you will, what it does is it prevents us from solving a problem that we may need to solve to make the product to market on time, this kind of thing. And so what we have to do is teach our employees that there's different ways to look at things. And I like to do this with an example. I have a Roman numeral here, and I'd like the audience to change this Roman numeral by adding 1 line only to the number 6. Change this Roman numeral by adding 1 line only to the number 6.
Now, that's the Roman number 9.
Well, that's correct. Okay? And before I'm going to let you have some time to do that, what I'd like to do in the adaptability part is talk about what is the glue that holds the adaptability part together. Now, we spend about 40 to 50 minutes on talking about adaptability when we do this class, and we only have a few minutes to spend here. But I like to give a visual on this. I have a paper here, and I like to use this as a metaphor. Okay, it's a normal paper, and in the metaphoric sense, every time I rip the paper, it's bad things that happen to you in your life. What are some bad things that happen to you in your life, Vince?
Well, a lot of people, loss of a loved one, loss of a job, loss of an order for a salesperson, your kid getting in trouble. That's you getting in trouble.
You getting in trouble, okay. Or a divorce.
That could happen, sure.
Yeah.
Some of the fears people have is those things. Speaking in front of the public, it doesn't bother you or me, but a lot of people, when they're asked to speak, think that's a bad thing that's happening.
Well, it used to bother me, to be honest with you. I'd say it just take practice. But you know, I've done this a lot now, and
I've always been fascinated by this.
Yeah. Well, one person brought up when I talked about what happens to people in their lives. They brought up Christopher Reeves.
Oh,
Christopher Reeves had he had everything, and then he's kind of lost everything, right? Okay, and he could just shrivel up, go away, but what has he done?
he's tremendous positive attitude.
That's it. It's attitude. And just as with this paper, when you have an attitude, a positive attitude, you can put your life back together. And that's the key to adaptability. Not only the paradigm flexibility, but your attitude. Your attitude is the control panel of your life. And that's the thing that will make it happen for you. Okay?
And people that don't have a positive attitude are in trouble. I think we both agree with that.
Yeah, look at Christopher Reeves. He's a great example of that. One day he says he's going to walk, and I believe he will. There's talk now that there's a new thing out there that he's going to walk, and I certainly hope he does. And there's so many examples out there. Christopher Reeves is
Let me give you one that ties in. Mark Victor Hansen, one of the authors of the Chicken Soup programs, he talks about a couple in New England that take kids that have disabling mental sicknesses, and they just shower love on these kids. They take 10, 12 kids into their home, and the remarkable turnaround in 6 months, a year, 2 years is just unbelievable. Where medical doctors have said there's no chance, they just shower them with love, and changes their whole perspective. So there is a tremendous power.
Great, great. Now, let me just go back to this. Now, when I talked about paradigm flexibility,
Right?
and I asked you to solve this problem.
Just one line.
Just one line. Now, how many people took the one line and made an S and made that a 6?
Just with an S in front.
Just with an S in front like this.
I hope thousands of our viewers.
Thousands. You only got thousands?
Thousands.
Or millions by now, Vince. Okay, the letter 6. And what we're saying is that it limits you because you were trying to make a what? A Roman numeral.
Right. Because you saw the Roman numeral,
Right.
and you were in that paradigm box of
And
Roman
it
numerals.
restricted you from solving the problem. Now, I get a lot of, funny answers and discussions about that, but I think it makes the point very well. Moving on to the trustworthiness.
Next is trustworthiness. Touch base with trustworthiness.
Well, trust is the foundation of all human relationships. The two things I like to point out, there's actually 3 key questions that you should ask yourself. Can I be trusted? Do I care about others? And am I committed to excellence? Now, that's the foundation for your personal success. And if you're a leader, you say, do my people trust me? Do I care about my people? And again, am I committed to excellence? And there's 2 key principles, if you will, that we use at Harris. The first one is always maintain and enhance the other person's self-esteem and focus on the problem and not the personality.
That's a good way to look at it. So trustworthiness, no question about it. Let's touch base on resourcefulness.
Okay, resourcefulness. What I want to do there is talk about solving problems. And what I'd like you to do, I'd like the audience to duplicate this drawing.
On the pad and the pencil, we've asked him, all right, would you explain in the last 30 seconds here until our break, just explain what you'd like him to do draw that, and then we'll get back to the finish.
Okay, what I'd like you to do is draw this diagram without removing your pencil from the paper. And you have to figure out how to do that.
That's including the dot.
That's including the dot. The dot has to be in the middle, and you have to do that, and you can't take your pencil or have somebody help you. It has to be you. And some people have a ballpoint pen, and they retract the ballpoint pen. That's not what I'm looking for.
No, that's to say, all right, that's interesting. Let's get back to that after the break.
Okay.
You're watching the Cerney Success Show with ideas to help you become more successful. I am your host, Vincent Cerney, and with me is Mr. Ed Rose from the Harris Semiconductor, and we're talking about things that Harris does to be more successful.
What I'd like to do, Vince, is give you one of my business cards.
Well, thank you. You saw that on one of my previous shows.
Yes, I did, Vince. I learned quick.
Well, it's always one of the little successful traits is giving a business card and making a big deal out of it. And you said in the Orient,
in Asia, they say that they consider it disrespectful
if you don't read it.
You don't read it before you put it in your pocket. And you know, I usually take a business card and just. But you know, I started now.
You have to recognize it, read it.
Makes sense, right? If I take the time to give you my business card, you should recognize it.
That's what the implication is implied and very strong.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, did anybody figure this out? Well, hopefully you did. Let me show you how you do this. What you do here is fold the paper into the middle, like so. And you make your dot on the paper right here. And we see this, hopefully. And you come down, you run down here on the paper where you're not, and you come out here like this. And hopefully you got that on the camera.
And
but
your
then
pen
that's not
never
much
left
in the center because I'm kind of doing it upside down. My pen never, what happens is that people, when they try to solve the problem, there's two elements in the problem, the paper and the pen, and people only try to deal with the pen and don't use the other element of the problem. They manipulate the pen all night long, but they don't try to manipulate the paper. And that's what we talk about, being resourceful. And sometimes you have to get asked for help, get other people involved, go find out if anybody else is doing this. Remember, these are simulations that we're trying to teach our people to be more resourceful in solving their problems, more adaptable, and to be trustworthy. And you know, they want us to trust them, but you know, to be trusted, one must be trustworthy. So all these, you know, work together.
No question at all. And most people, 20% of our brain is our conscious brain. Talking to you now, looking at the tie, and hearing you, that's only 20% of the brain is active doing that, and yet we're not using that whole 20%. We're using 2 or 3% of it. So there's plenty of a reservoir of brain cells for anyone to expand on. All they have to do is think about it, write it down, try several things, or go to resources like people that know more than they do, or the library, or books, or whatever.
But we all know different things, you know, and we don't all know everything. And, you know, I know a lot less than most people. And I've been very successful because I surround myself with good people.
Well, and in Harris, that's easy to do because there are a lot of top-notchers there. ATROC, adaptable, trustworthy, resourceful. Let's talk about being optimistic.
Yeah, and optimistic, and what I like to do here is I like to talk about limiting ourselves. We limit ourselves by just what we call perceived reality.
Why do we do that?
Well,
are we afraid that people will see us goof up, or why do people take that attitude?
I'm not sure, but I think it's human nature, and I like to tell Micah's story. So we put Micah's picture up there. One of the reasons I signed up so I get, yeah, there he is, Micah, my grandson. I was telling my grandson one Saturday morning, I said, Micah, let me tell you a story about when I was young and I lived in New Jersey and we had a farm. And you lived in New York, right? You can relate to this.
I can understand that,
yeah.
Sure.
Every Saturday we go to the farmer's market to take our vegetables and sell. And every Saturday Willie Scott would come over, and this particular Saturday Willie left the chickens on the front porch. When we got back from the farmer's market, the chickens were all gone out of the cage. And so my dad said, hey, go round out the chickens. So we went around, we spent 2 or 3 hours rounding up the chickens. We brought back 8 chickens, put them in the cage. My dad was a little angry. And I was telling Mike, he said, he called Willie Scott. He said, Willie, I'm not too happy, and I don't think it was a good idea that you left the cage on the front porch. The latch opened, and all the chickens got out, and it took us 3 hours to get 11 chickens. And Willie kind of laughed and said, that's not too bad, Mr. Rose, only left 6. So, you know, Mike was a little young for that. He didn't quite understand that.
That's like when people leave a hotel with more towels than they came in with.
Yeah, well, it's a little different because what I'm telling Mike is don't let perceived limitations. What could we accomplish if we didn't know how many chickens we had to get?
That's right.
You know, that's kind of, and he'll understand that later when he gets a little older. But for you, Vince, let me go back to one of your shows, and I forget the guy's name. He was from Jacksonville. His name was Joe, I believe.
Joe Marino.
Joe Marino, right? How would I forget what I did for you? Nice guy. I called him the night of the show. I called him, and I saw him do this trap trick here, and they called it a trick, and it's not a trick. It's about perceived reality. Everyone out in the audience is probably thinking, no one is crazy enough to put their hand in that trap, because if I put this pretzel in, look what happens. You know, it busts up. Now, I don't know if you can help me with this, Vince. Well, maybe I can do it. Should have my glasses on so I could see, but okay. Now, that is real, right?
That is a real trap. I used to trap muskrats as a kid with very similar traps.
Now, the beauty of this, and Florence talked about having a dream. It's one thing to have a dream. You have to plan for the dream. Now, obviously, this wasn't my dream, but I did see it on your show, and I said, you know, I can make a good point with this in my workshop when I talk about focused action. It's one thing to have a plan, but you have to implement that plan. That's what we talk to our employees about. You can have all the great ideas in the world, but you have to implement it. And sometimes what happens in problem solving is that we perceive the problem as insurmountable. We can't do it because it's not, we look at it as perceived reality. The perceived reality of that trap is what? If I stick my hand in it,
it's going to hurt.
It's going to hurt. Okay? When I found out the secret to this, really, and I could teach everyone out there how to do this, it has nothing to do with a trick. It is not magic at all. The reality of it is that it will not hurt you. And when I got the trap, even after the fellow told me all about it and what to do, I still had, because my softball career would be over for the year, you know, and I really had, I just finally had to do it. And I want to show everybody, and I learned this on your show, so I thank you for that, and I've gone along, now can you take that off for me, please? Thank you. And the beauty of this is that the reality of it is that this will not hurt you.
You don't want us to call 911 then?
Yeah, okay. And the other thing is, any kids out there, don't go running and putting your hand into a trap. Because when I'm talking about focused action, that's not, oh, I see that, let me go do it. What I did is I called someone who knew how to do it. I talked to them. I talked to some other people in the business who know how to do it. And I got all the facts, all the data, and then I did it. And then, but that's what I call focused action. You just don't go out and do it.
You didn't try to wing it. You went to some experts to get the input, found out how to do it, and you did it.
Exactly.
Okay, the ATROC, adaptable, trustworthy, resourceful, optimistic, in our last 3 minutes, consider it.
Consider it. Well, I guess what I'm saying here is that you need to be considerate of other people. Now, there's a couple of stories that, I could share with you, but I'd rather talk about Justin, my other grandson, Justin.
All right, let's talk about
Justin's story. This relates to one Saturday morning. I was home getting ready for a big conference and putting a magic illusion together, and Justin came into my office and he said, "Grandpa, let's go out and have a catch." I said, "Justin," I almost said, "Justin, I'm too busy." But I know that's not the right thing to do. I'm a progressive granddad. I know that's not the thing to do. So I took him into the living room, and on the living room floor there was a puzzle of the world in 150 pieces. I said, "You put that together, and then we'll go out and have a catch." So I went back to my office.
It's going to take him a couple hours.
I thought so. 5 minutes later, Grandpa, let's go. Let's have a catch." I said, "I thought we had a deal." He said, "We did." I said, "There's no way you put that together." He said, "Way." You understand that? Way, no way. So went back in there. Sure enough, there it was, just put together perfectly. I couldn't believe it. I said, "Justin, how in the world did you do that?" He said, "Grandpa, it was easy. On the other side of the puzzle was pictures of people. When you put the people together, the world comes together." And that's the point of consideration. You need to put the people together in your life, in your work environment, Wherever you are, it's about people and putting them together and being considerate of them. There was one person on your show that said that you really get more out of giving somebody something that they didn't ask for.
And you get it back tenfold.
And you get it back tenfold. That is such a true statement. If I had time, I'd tell you about this vice president of M&M Candy, Ridge Hooks, that I play softball with, that took a guy off the street that was on the street for 7 years, and the guy asked him for some money for food, and he said, I won't buy you food, but I'll buy you dinner. And to make a long story short, he bought him dinner, got this guy into the mission. This guy's graduating this Friday. He has no family. He was a college degree. He was on the street for 7 years, and now he's teaching other people and bringing them off the street. If that's not a positive story. Now, that's an outside story from work, but all these things can happen in work, too.
We're finishing up with Ed Rose. Ed is with fucking 3. People generally remember 3 things, but you've got 4 points that you were telling me about philosophy, and what are those 4 points?
Well, I've taken Colonel Dwight's basic philosophy and over the course of some 40 years adopted 4 points that I like to share with the audience. If we could bring that up on the monitor.
All right.
The first point is commit yourself. The second is think positively. The third is plan for success. And the fourth is care about others. And what I like to do is go through them. We want to make this the greatest day in our lives, or do we want to make it just another day? It's our choice to call it. And attitude really determines our destiny. And I like to use a visual metaphor. As you know, I do magic, and my book is about using magical metaphors to help learning points or grab audience's attention. So let me see if I could do that here.
And you know, magic has always fascinated me. But let me tell you, you don't have supernatural powers, do you?
None at all. Anything that I do, anybody can do. I'm kind of like the magic for the less impaired or for the challenged.
Okay.
What would be a political correct thing to say here? But let me give you the metaphor. And the metaphor here is that the fire that I'm about to start is negative events or negative energies in your life.
We all experience it.
It's not the negative events in itself that will determine your future. It's what you do and the decisions you make. You can either burn up or you can make a rose like I did.
Isn't that? Commit yourself, we've talked about, and thinking positively. Now, the third is a plan for success. Everybody should have a plan, whether it's business and a business plan. Planning is so important. What can you tell us about having a plan for success, Ed?
Well, Vince, I think I'll use your words. I think you said something like failing to plan is planning to fail. I think that's absolutely dead right on.
I've been there.
You need to have a plan. You need to write it down. Sometimes you don't write it down. I can confess to you that initially I didn't write my plans down, but I've started doing that now because the visual medium is so important. You need to put your goals in writing. I like to use a story here. I call it Chasing the Snake. It's a story about 2 boys and a girl that were out in the woods playing, and a snake bit the girl. The 2 boys, what do you think they did? They went off and chased the snake. 2 hours later, they come back and they have the snake. The snake is dead, and they're saying, the girl is passed out. They have to rush her to the hospital. The end of the story is kind of sad because the girl lost her leg. And the point of it is that had they done what was important now, as Lou Holt says, do what's important now, win what's important now. If they had got the poison out of her leg, chased the poison out instead of chasing the snake, how many times I say to you, Vince, and the audience, how many times have we been chasing the snake rather than doing what's important now?
Have a photographic brain.
And let me use that for a minute. Let me ask the viewers out there to take their hand like this and follow my directions, okay? I want you to take this little sign and put it right here on your chin. No, I said your chin. You have it on your cheek. This is your chin. That's the importance of the visual medium. Yeah. But I want to do one other thing. I have a plan, and I've written it down. I had a goal, and it was to do a trick that David Copperfield had done on television. Okay, and I have that.
David who?
David Copperfield.
Okay.
You know that guy?
Well,
he does a little magic.
I see his mother on television.
But I want to get the audience involved here. Cameraman, if you could just zoom right into that. Can you get these cards here? Can you see those cards?
Rich does very good. He's an excellent cameraman.
I want the audience, we got to focus, think of a card. Don't tell me. Oh, of course you can't tell me. Look at the card, think of it. Okay? You got the card? Is everyone paying attention here?
Give him another 10 seconds.
I want you to select a card, only one card. Do you have it? Okay, I'm going to close it. I'm just setting it down here. I've made that card disappear just like David Copperfield. I know the card you selected because I had a plan for success. Now what I'm going to do is open it up, and if you'll look closely, come zoom right in there. Is your card still there? I doubt it because I think I was successful. Well, Vince, I accomplished one of the goals of my life, all human relationships. And I have a metaphor for that trick out of my book.
Is it a magic trick? Yes.
Well, no, you know, it's only magic if it's not your trick. Ray Green shared that with me, a friend of mine.
I have known you for years. I trust you. What are you going to show our audience?
Well, what I'm going to do is take this water here, and the cameraman is, I'm pouring that. You can see that, and that's empty.
Okay.
That is empty, as we can see. I'm waving my hand over the top of this water, Vinny. Can I call you Uncle Vinny? Isn't that what they used to call you?
Call me Vinny, Uncle Vinny.
Just don't call you late to dinner?
Well,
Okay, back to the illusion.
Go ahead.
Vinny, do you believe I made this water disappear?
Well, if you made it into wine, that would be something, but...
No, that's for...
that was in the Bible.
That was in the Bible, and I'm not, you know, I don't have those kind of powers.
I trust you. I trust you.
Well, wait, don't get ahead of me now.
All right.
Do you believe that I've made this water disappear?
Yes.
Okay, that was pretty hard for you to say that. We're going to get into trust now because trusting is different than believing. And then what I would go into is a level of trust. In my book, we talk about the different levels of trust. I don't really have a lot of time to go in there, but I'm going to just kind of skip to the chase. You say that you believe me, but now the real truth in this, or the jump from believing to trusting, is will you let me pour this over your head to demonstrate to the audience that the water is indeed gone?
Sure.
You would?
Sure.
See, that's what a lot of people won't do. It's easy to say I believe because they're not committed. But to commit yourself and put yourself into the process by saying, yes, indeed, I know you've made the water disappear, I believe you, and that's what, and we all know that no one can make water disappear. Oh, are you clapping out there? Anybody can do that trick. It's in the